Welcome to my monthly The Expat Career and Lifestyle podcast. I'm Dominika and I am the founder of dmcoaching.eu, the place to be when you want to create a career you love and live the global lifestyle. Welcome to our monthly The Expat Career and Lifestyle podcast. Today I have a great pleasure to speak with a fantastic and successful woman, Margaret Boy. Margaret is an interview and career coach. She specializes in helping professionals get hired, promoted and earn more. In her 10 years of international recruitment experience, she has interviewed thousands of people across Europe, Middle East and the US. And over the last 8 years of running her own coaching practice, she has successfully helped hundreds of job seekers get the jobs or promotions they really want. Today with Margaret, we are going to speak about how to create an effective CV, get noticed on LinkedIn and prepare for the job interview so you can land your dream job before the end of the year. Welcome, Margaret. I am really excited to have you here. As you already know, I have been following your blog since a long time and implementing your tips in my professional life.
Thank you for having me here. Thank you.
Yeah, and so tell us more about yourself and what are you doing?
Okay, so I actually do a number of different things. In terms of career coaching, I coach, interview coaching, I coach clients at all levels and from different sectors and well in my interview coaching practice, and I run some job search and interviewing workshops as well. I'm actually doing one next Wednesday for interesting talks in London. I'm also head of recruitment at the fastest growing technology startup in London called Yieldify. We've recently received over 11 million funding from Google Ventures and SoftBank. So it's really exciting for me to build a recruitment function for such a fast growing company globally. And I also blog on a regular basis, and I'm one of the approved writers for Career Realism, which is a global career, career advice platform. So yeah, I do a number of different things.
Yeah, so you do a lot of things, interesting things. So we have 3 months before the end of 2015. So what can a person who is looking for a new job or thinking about a career change do to secure a dream position in that period of time?
Okay, so firstly, you need to get organized and like really allow yourself time to organize before beginning your job search, because job hunting can be a fast-paced process, especially when you apply for numerous positions at the same time. So if you don't organize, it can become really easy to lose track of where you are up to with each application, which can both, waste your time and impact your productivity as well. So by taking that time to prepare for the days and weeks ahead, you can give yourself a better opportunity of being able to manage your schedule successfully. So, if you know obviously which positions you're interested in, then obviously it's easier, right? But at the same time, if you're not sure about that, you might want to begin by researching and making a list of industries that you want to look into, as well as the type of a company you want to work for and for any job roles that you would be happy to take on. So again, as I said, it's easier if you know exactly what type of positions you're interested in, because you can really get started and make sure that you tailor your CV to specific jobs. But if you're not sure, then obviously do that research and maybe conduct some informational interviews with people who do the job that you're interested in. You might also want to create some sort of personalized system, just to document your progress, whether it's some spreadsheets or some color-coded notes. You might want to, because especially when you apply for like 50 different positions, and then someone calls you back and asks you for an interview, like you need to know exactly which job it was and which company it was, and you need to be able to track your progress. So you might want to create a document where you say when you can store any usernames or passwords you use for job or recruitment sites, as well as having your login details all in one place will save you time every day. And then you might use some online tools like bookmarking to save time when returning to the sites that you visit regularly. Also, time frames, like when deciding how many hours to spend a day searching for jobs, try not to overwhelm yourself by cramming in too much, as this is likely to impact on your productivity as well. And obviously, it depends on whether you work right now or when you don't. If you're in full-time employment right now, you will have less time. So choose at times when you are most alert, and don't forget to take regular breaks as well. And also like in terms of day-to-day activity. So, maybe sign up to regularly check your email alerts for relevant job opportunities. I use LinkedIn a lot. I think LinkedIn is amazing, and I think we'll talk about that later. But many different other job sites that you can sign up to receive the alerts. So allow yourself the time to tailor your CV for each job as you wish to apply for. I'll talk about that a little bit more later, but it's very important that you don't send the same CV for different positions. You really need to be able to tailor your applications to each position and analyze the job description and personalize your application to make sure that you highlight the skills and experience you have to meet the job requirements. And the final one, seek some advice and support. Sometimes it helps to discuss your job search with friends and family, as they can offer you advice on what has worked in the past. But sometimes you need a professional, whether it's regarding CV writing or interview coaching. If you've been applying for jobs, if you've applied for like 50 positions and you're not getting interviews, what are you waiting for? It's just like definition of insanity, doing the same things and expecting different results. So I think that most people could get more interviews if they knew how to tailor their CV. So, if you're not getting interviews, if you're not getting offers, get some support as well, because there's no need to be wasting months on a job search. It doesn't have to take that long. I know it can, it can take some time to find the right opportunity. But if you're not getting interviews at all, then there is something that you can do with your CV, your resume.
So we know
probably.
Yeah. So we know that the first step to secure a job interview is to have great CV, irresistible CV. So what are your best tips to write a great CV so a person can be visible to a potential employer or an interviewer?
Okay, so that's such a big topic. I've actually written the whole book about, well, not just about that, but I wrote a book about e-guide on how to land that job. But let's look at the process from an employer's point of view. Before you even send your CV, think about, why should the company select your CV, interview, and possibly hire you when they might have 50 or 100 applications to choose from? So what can you say on your CV that will make your resume stand out? And how can you create the necessary wording to just help provide a mental picture for the reader, showing your potential capabilities? So you really must be able to provide the most comprehensive picture of your capabilities in order to catch the attention of the reader. So I personally like having a section on top of the resume, which you can tailor depending on what job you're applying for. You obviously wouldn't be changing you can't really change the dates or job titles. That needs to remain the same. But at the same time, you want to grab the recruiter's attention immediately. And you can do that by drawing their attention to the most relevant skills that they're looking for. So I like the skills section, which you tailor depending on job to job. Again, don't use these cliches. I often receive resumes with these phrases like, I'm a self-motivated team player, and, I can work on my own, and I can work as part of a team. Just don't bother. It's such a waste of space, and if your resume is just boring phrases with no examples to back them up, it's actually going to be very difficult for you to stand out or for recruiters to really see your value proposition. It's not that certain power words can't be used on your resume. They can, but you want to use them effectively so you just don't sound like everyone else. And the problem with these words that I just mentioned is that they're very subjective. Anyone can say they're efficient or well organized, or that they have great leadership skills. I've had people saying they have great communication skills, and then I could not understand them on the phone. So, nothing, nothing about those words make you stand out from competition unless you. So, here are some tips, and that really goes both for resume and LinkedIn profile. So, number one, use evidence and concrete examples to back up your statements. So many CVs I see are very duty oriented. So the people mention what they've done, but they just don't mention any achievements. So again, how am I supposed to know? I can give you some examples of when I've recruited for an office admin position. I've received 170 applications over the weekend. So that's not normal, right? For most senior positions, you wouldn't receive quite as many. But just think of how you're gonna make myself stand out, even when there's 30 other people applying for a job, and it's likely to be much more than that. So you want to back up, you just want to add some information that actually prove your drive. Let's say, I see a lot of resumes of people who are results driven. So I would suggest adding some information that actually proves your drive for results. In what ways has your performance outpaced that of your peers? Maybe you've earned 3 promotions in 18 months. So put that information on your resume. Or, let's say maybe you're an internal auditor who's implemented new payroll and tax accounting systems that will save your company 100,000, in staff costs over the next 3 years. So that's the kind of example that demonstrates you being innovative or good at problem solving. But even if you're at a more junior level, so maybe you're an admin assistant and you've managed switchboard with 8 incoming lines, routing an average of 300 calls per day, you immediately sound much more impressive than a candidate who simply says they have great organizational skills. Also using numbers. Numbers are really great for demonstrating your skills and expertise. So did you increase revenue, save time or money? If so, mention that. Like how many events did you organize maybe? Or, how many clients did you deal with every month? So put some numbers. Maybe, I don't know, maybe you're like an accounts payable and you process, I don't know, X amount of invoices every month. And again, mention that as well, because that just proves that you have the skills that you mentioned that you do say you have. So, unless you can prove it, I wouldn't bother with phrases like proven success, proven track record. If you've exceeded quota every year for the past 3 years, if you're in sales, or if you finish all the projects under budget, then mention that. So these tangible achievements will help a hiring person understand the scope of your work and the reasons behind your career progression. So just to summarize, remove all the redundant phrases from your resume and provide specific details of your achievements. And honestly, watch your interview invites go up. It will definitely help.
So giving specific examples of your achievements.
Yeah, definitely. Very, very important. And they have to be also relevant to the position you're applying for. Because again, sometimes as CCVs, they have some achievements mentioned, but they have just like zero relevance to the jobs they're applying for, in which case, that you won't get an interview anyway. So it has to be relevant to the job you're applying for.
Also LinkedIn. So how can we, what are the top strategies to create a professional LinkedIn profile?
Okay. So, again, LinkedIn is amazing. Honestly, I use LinkedIn all the time. Like many recruiters, I feel a majority of my open roles using LinkedIn, and I use the platform on almost daily basis to identify and approach passive candidates. So simply joining LinkedIn definitely isn't enough. If you want to get noticed by top recruiters in your industry, you've got to find a way to stand out from the crowd. So, number one, fill in a complete profile. Like, unless you complete all sections of the profile, you will miss out on opportunities. So I would recommend that you create a strong summary section. I have an article on my blog with some examples, which I could give you access to later. But if you go to my blog and type in LinkedIn summary, you will actually find the article on how to write a strong summary section with some examples. So that's okay. Strong summary section. Put relevant keywords into the specialties. So keywords are obviously the keywords that come up in the job descriptions that you're applying for. So if you have the skills employees are looking for, mention those keywords are mentioned both in your, summary section and specialty section on LinkedIn, but also under your job responsibilities. Write down about every job you've held, well, in the last 10 years at least. I don't think you necessarily need jobs from, 20 years ago if you're really experienced. But write down about every job that you've held. And again, make sure you've got some achievements there as well. Include some universities or schools that you've attended, maybe some associations that you might belong to. If you speak any foreign languages or know some sought after technologies, mention them. I often look for people with languages on LinkedIn. So let's say I'm looking for a German speaking account manager. I won't find you unless you list German as one of your keywords. So again, it's very important that you mention the languages that you have. Choose a professional photo. Yeah. Again, most people know that, but honestly, I've seen a lot of beach or party pictures on LinkedIn, not necessarily a great impression, or like massive cleavage as well. Again, not a great impression. So yeah, professional picture. As I mentioned, you're listing some tangible achievements. So keep your profile concise, but use bullet points to highlight some specific achievements. And creating a strong headline. So you have 120 characters under your name on your profile to sell yourself. So if you can, don't just mention your job title, but maybe show how you can solve a problem. So again, that's another big topic all in itself. A lot of people join LinkedIn, they add a few connections, and then they stop an activity, and yet they're surprised they're not getting many emails. So instead of waiting to be noticed, identify some recruiters in your target companies and invite them to connect with you. So if you make a good first impression, you increase the likelihood that you'll be considered for future positions as well. And also keep making connections on a regular basis, add your current and previous colleagues on LinkedIn and just regularly keep adding connections, for example, after visiting an industry event. So the larger your network, the easier it is for you to connect with employers and leaders in your field. I connect with people I meet professionally. I accept invitations from those I haven't met if we have common professional interests as well. Engage with your network. Like, you can keep in front of recruiters by posting relevant information, news, and interesting articles. Like, I post a lot of articles I've written or videos, and that gives me huge visibility. Just to give you an example, a year or 2 years ago, I got approached by like 10 companies in 3 months who wanted me to work for them. And that just through LinkedIn without me lifting a finger. Well, apart from doing the activities I just mentioned. Joining some groups might be, not an option for everyone, I suppose, but joining relevant industry groups on LinkedIn is a great way to showcase your expertise. I think definitely for some technology positions. I have a technical recruiter in our team, and yeah, she'll just go all these different industry groups on LinkedIn and post jobs there and engage with developers there. So that can definitely help. And participating in discussions can help as well. Like, intelligent, articulate responses may attract attention from recruiters and lead to an interview or job offer. So it's also a good idea to both offer and ask for recommendations on LinkedIn, as they don't just appear on the profile of the person they for, but also on the profile of the person who wrote them. And very important, only post recommendations from people who have worked with you and can vouch for your professional skills. I have to say, I'm amazed by the amount of requests from people I've never met. I would never recommend anyone I've not worked with. I wouldn't expect a stranger to write a recommendation for me either. So you just kind of, you just look silly asking for recommendations from people you've not worked with before. But, always ask for recommendations from people who've actually worked with you and can, vouch for professional expertise. So I know it's quite a lot of information, and there's so much more I could mention, but I think hopefully that will give you some tips.
Yeah. So yeah, we can do a lot of with LinkedIn, and it's a great tool to find or develop your connections.
Yeah.
So you have mentioned also keywords. So keywords relevant to the job position that you are applying for or looking for. So how to find, what else can we do to find the best keyword? Is it something connection with action verbs or?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, action verbs, yes, but also like not just the action verbs. I would say that the keywords that are used on the job description, you need to make sure they are on your profile as well. So keywords are the relevant phrases or words on your profile that will make it easy to find you when the recruiter is looking for certain terms. So you need these keywords in your job description, under the descriptions of your different jobs, your LinkedIn summary, and your headline as well. So it's actually really quite easy. Scan job postings for keywords. So I know some descriptions are really short and not specific enough, but review several descriptions of positions that interest you and notice that there are any that keep popping up in most job descriptions. So you might even want to find people with the same job title as yours or the one you're applying for, and then have a look at what keywords are they using on the LinkedIn profile, what are the job titles. And then if they're relevant to your experience, find a way of using them in your LinkedIn profile and on your CV as well. Also, be specific. So avoid broad terms such as marketing. That won't tell me what you did in your job. I mean, it's just because I recruit for marketing positions, it's just such a wide area, right? Like, did you work in marketing communications? Did you deal with affiliate partners? Are you, SEO, like search engine optimization? Maybe you're a brand marketing expert. So the more specific you are, the easier it will be for the recruiter to find you. And sometimes when I look for candidates for my open positions, I will search by inputting names of software or programs they're using, so maybe SAP or languages they speak. So I think I mentioned before, if you speak Dutch or German or whatever, like, make sure this is clear on your LinkedIn profile as well. So it's actually, as I said, it's not very difficult, but keywords can make it much easier for recruiters to find you and contact you about job opportunities.
Okay, so being specific.
Yeah, definitely.
So the phone is ringing and there is a recruitment consultant on the phone telling that you have an interview with ABC company. So yeah, after the excitement, so some of people or some of us can get panic. So how to overcome panic and prepare for the interview with confidence?
Yeah, sure. Again, so big topic, but I know, just remember that the interviewer wants you to do well. I think people quite often think before they go for an interview, they're like, oh, they just want to like catch me out on stuff I don't know. And they just treat it as a negative process that they will be interrogated. But that's not the case at all. It's such a time consuming process interviewing that the quicker they can find the right person, the quicker the interviewer can go back to doing their day job. So remember the interviewer wants you to do well. Honestly, I didn't realize that until I started working in recruitment.
Yeah.
Like every time a person comes in through the door, you just hope they're the right person, So remember the interview wants you to do well. Obviously prepare well, do the company research, prepare answers to most common interview questions, get some mock interview practice. When you think of most interviews, honestly, like how deep, they actually typically, you will typically get asked roughly the same questions. So, as long as you have your answers prepared to the most common questions and you think of some examples, you should be fine. But just don't leave it till the last minute because it's hard to, it's not hard, but it just takes time to prepare your answers to the most common interview questions. So that's that. Every interview is a good experience. Like even if you don't get a job, I think you learn something. And, every interview is a good practice. So I think the more interviews you do, the more confident you become anyway. And I was like, what's the worst that can happen? Like if you suddenly start feeling panicky, I mean, honestly, what's the worst that can happen? Now, there's always another job. Like it isn't the only job in the universe. So just try to treat it as a positive experience. It's, you want to do your best, but there's so much that's beyond your control in an interview. I think what's under your control is that you prepare, that you do your best, but sometimes you can do the best interview and still not get the job because the job will get put on hold or someone internal, the job will be filled internally. So that's beyond your control. So don't stop worrying about stuff that's beyond your control. You can only do your best.
Yeah, that's true because many people see interview as a negative thing, negative situation. But it's the opportunity to practice or to.
Yeah, definitely, absolutely, definitely is.
Yes, so you have interviewed thousands of people nationally and internationally in your job as a recruiter, and you have also helped a lot of people to master their interview skills as an interview coach. So what are your tips to answer the common question that we get at the interview? Tell me about yourself. So how can we answer this question?
Yeah, well, good question, because a lot of people really struggle with that, and I personally think it's like a lazy interviewer question. I don't ever ask it myself, but unfortunately most interviews do start with this question, so it's a good idea to be prepared. So, a lot of my clients ask me, like, what do they actually want to know? So I want to answer this question in terms of the skills and experience required for the position. This question is all about you as an employee, not about your personal life or if you're a dedicated sports fan. So you want to answer it by describing your best attributes relevant to the job. So it's always obviously a good idea to know what you would like to say before you start talking. So I suggest that you learn this to answer this question with a 3-part pre-planned marketing statement that you can pretty much use from interview to interview. And I do give examples of that in my free e-course on my website, how to win at job interviews. But let me give you just a summary. So firstly, start with a brief summary of your career history. So maybe you can say I'm a product manager with 7 years of experience working for medium to large organizations in the IT sector, both in the UK and abroad. So, brief summary, then talk them through briefly how your career developed, but don't just repeat on what they can see on your CV. Like talk to the interviewer more in terms of what you've learned or achieved. Because a lot of people, again, just repeat what the interviewer can see on the CV anyway. And it's boring. Like quite often you're just boring yourself by giving that answer. Like give them more of a story, explain why you moved jobs or explain more about your motivation or what you've learned or what you've achieved. It doesn't have to be a long answer, by the way. It actually should be really quite concise. That whole answer, I would say, 2 to 5 minutes, depending on how senior you are. Then mention a recent accomplishment that you are proud of that will also capture the potential employer's attention. So you really want to focus on what makes you exceptional or how your skills and experience matches the requirements of the job. And at the end, you can just give them like a brief summary of what you want to do next in your career or why you're interested in this specific job. So it doesn't, as I said, it doesn't have to be a long answer. I would say 2 to 5 minutes max. And that's when you're like really quite senior already anyway. And initially when you answer this question, refrain from talking about personal stuff. It's not that what you do in your spare time isn't interesting. It's just not the right time to bring it up. You want to communicate why you're the right fit for the open position. It's absolutely fine to mention, but perhaps at the end. what, like maybe if you do something interesting in your spare time, sure, I think it's a great idea to mention that. But, if you like mention hanging out with friends and reading, that's what 99% of people like doing anyway. So I wouldn't necessarily mention that. But if you do something different, then maybe mention that at the end. And as I said, keep your answer brief. I've had people ramble on for 20 minutes about the whole life story when asked this question.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've had people who spend like about a minute answering that question. So, neither is right. Like you want to have want to have a story, but a concise story. So you might want to prepare. I wouldn't actually recommend writing out the whole answer because you will never remember the way it was written anyway, but maybe write down a few key points that you would like to cover that you can practice before the interview.
Mm-hmm. So what else can we do to prepare for the interview questions? Because we don't know exactly what an interviewer or recruiter is going to ask us. So what can we do to structure the answer?
Yeah, so it depends on the question, right? So as I said,
Yeah.
most interviews are actually quite similar. Even if they don't know, they tell me about yourself and why do you want to work here and what can you bring to the job, etc., etc. So these questions are quite common. You obviously do need to prepare. When questions like what can you bring to the job, make sure that you back it up with examples. But in terms of the competency-based interview questions, so you've asked how to structure the answers in advance. So most companies these days would use competency-based interview questions. So again, most people are aware of that, but in case someone isn't, I just explain what they are. So, the general interview questions will be telling me about yourself and why do you want to work here. The competency-based interview questions will be all these example questions. So tell me about a time when, give me example of a situation when you had to work under pressure, or tell me about a time you've managed a complex project, right? So you want to make sure that you give them a well-rounded, well-structured answer that really covers what was the situation, what is that you've done specifically, and what was the result. So there is this format called STAR, which stands for situation, task, action, result, or another one, challenge, action, result, which I would recommend that you use when preparing your answers to competency-based questions. So firstly, when you ask about a project you've managed or for an achievement or example of an initiative you've taken, give them a bit more context. Like, what was the situation? Where did you work? What did you have to do? Why did you do or whatever you were doing? So if it's a project, what was the project? What was the context, etc., etc. Then talk about specifically about what you've done. So even if you are working as part of a team, make sure that you mention your specific actions. So again, I've had people who just say we all the time, but if you say we all the time, as in we as a team, I'm not going to know like what was your specific contribution. So make sure that you mention what you've done specifically and what was the result, So if you save time or money, great, mention that. If you receive great feedback or done something on time or before time, that would be a great result as well. So yeah, using style format for competency-based questions would be great. They're not easy to prepare for. That's why, that's why I have a job, I suppose. Because that's obviously exactly what I help my clients prepare, how to structure the answers. But yeah, you can definitely do a lot of work. It just takes some time, but you can definitely prepare it at home using the style format. So that's what I would recommend.
Yeah, STAR is very effective. I use it, to prepare for my job interviews in the past. In the past job.
Of course, yeah.
It was very effective. Yeah, and I think that I found some information on your website about how to prepare, how to use this system STAR. So the job interview is like we can say it's like a sales meeting. So how can we promote ourselves, or how a person can promote their self to secure a job position without being pushy or too salesy?
Do you know what? It's obviously the fine line between being confident and arrogant, right? But at the same time, you have to be able to. It's not about even promoting yourself. It's not because a lot of people think, oh my god, like I don't want to be pushy, but it's not being pushy. All that you do, all you're saying is just how you can help them. Employers hire people because they have a need. So all you have to do is to find out what's that need, and you basically provide evidence of what you've done that will be relevant. Big job. So don't ever think of yourself as being, too pushy. Like you're not being pushy or salesy by simply telling them what experience you have that will help them. So it's very important. It's just really two things, back up your answers with examples as I said, it's not enough to say that you're well organized or that you're great at managing projects unless you back it up with examples. And make sure that you have some stories prepared and tangible examples. When I think of people that have been rejected after interviews in all my different jobs, it typically comes down to the fact they just haven't provided enough evidence that they have the experience that we were looking for. So just make sure that you have enough stories, that you have tangible examples of what you've done that will be relevant to the job you're applying for.
Many of my followers are looking to develop or move their international career to the next level. So, what is your number one tip to be more competitive on the international job market?
I'm not sure that I have just one tip, because obviously it depends on what job it is and where you are in your career, and whether you already like working somewhere or whether you want to move away somewhere internationally. I think languages definitely help. In my last 10 years, it's like, for example, for the jobs I've been recruiting for in the e-commerce space, it's just so hard to find German speakers, for example, or Dutch speakers. So I think having languages definitely helps. Good education helps as well. There will be some like internationally recognized universities or business schools that make it much easier for you to find a job in another country. Again, having some good brands on your resume as well, having worked for some good companies helps as well, I think, in terms of getting some new opportunities. But when you're already in a job that you kind of may be happy with, but you want to get promoted, firstly find out what is it, firstly doing the research, like what are possible career options for you, finding out, what skills do you need to get, what skills do you need to learn to get to the next level, asking for more responsibility, maybe asking to get involved in some different projects, and just finding out ways that you can get more exposure within a current company. And I think, I kind of don't like the word self-promotion, but you do need to be able to talk about what you've done and what your achievements were. I think especially women quite often are guilty of that because they think, well, if I do a good job, that should be noticed and recognized. That's quite often not the case, like if you push for that and actually, push for those pay rises or push for, more responsibility, it's actually not going to happen until you actually ask for that. So I think it's very important that you just get comfortable with talking about what you've done, how you've helped the organization, what impact you've made. Because that will definitely help to get to that next level.
Yeah. I think
it's not the time to be shy when you're asking for, like, I know it's stressful. I always find it stressful asking for a raise, but you just have to do it. So it's like going to a dentist, No one likes it. It just has to be done.
Yeah, exactly. Margaret, you are a great example of a woman who has successfully developed a career abroad. So, can you tell us what was your biggest challenge in your journey and how did you overcome it?
God, I don't even know where to start. I'll be brief. To be honest, so many challenges. I came here with one suitcase 16 years ago. I had no idea about, anything about looking for a job, how the job market works. It's just so much harder when you come to a new country and you just don't know anyone or, anything about how it works. And obviously I was quite inexperienced, and that's really at the start of my career. Anyway, so honestly, there were so many challenges. Like that was the first one. Then I've had one time when, within a space of 3 weeks, I got robbed and I had to move out of my place and I've lost my job.
Wow.
And stuff like that. And then, I had another situation where it took me almost a year to find a permanent job. To be honest, I just had no clue what I was doing. I left my job. To look for another one. I just wanted to take some time out. But again, not a good idea to leave a job in general unless you have another one to go to, which I've learned the hard way. But I spent like months looking for a job. But to be honest, it was my fault because when I now think of what I was doing, my CV wasn't great. I wasn't tailoring my CV to specific jobs. I didn't know what I was doing wrong. And to be honest, if I got some help at that time, like if I got if I just got a coach for an hour or two, got a job much sooner, but I just didn't do that. So yeah, I have loads of different challenges at all different levels, but it's all part of a learning experience. So.
So now you are implementing, your experiences and challenges in your job. You are helping other people too.
Yeah, totally. Because it's not like people sometimes look at me now and think, oh, wow, how would you know anything about my situation? I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, I came here with one suitcase. I didn't know anything. I've had, as I said, even the fact I was looking for a job. So everyone has had some challenges. Everyone has had some challenges in their career. So I can identify with that, you know, because I came here without knowing anyone anyway. So like nothing was handed to me on a plate. Like as I said, I didn't actually know anyone in this country when I came here. So.
So what are your plans, projects for the future?
Okay, so obviously still continue with interview training, so, you know, the interview coaching. I'd like to expand more internationally. I mean, I've been actually getting quite a lot of international clients recently. I think I've mentioned to you earlier, you know, I have a client from South Africa tomorrow. Last week I had 3 Skype coaching sessions on Saturday with client in Ireland. Well, that's not that far, but Ireland, Portugal, and Nigeria.
Wow.
Yeah, very, very interesting. I had clients in like Saudi and, you know, Dubai, which is again quite interesting as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's really great. I also want to do some more workshops. I'm actually do them every now and then. There's this meetup in London called Interesting Talks, and they have like 10,000 members. So anyway, I'm doing a workshop next Wednesday evening, which should be fun. It probably is my 3rd or no, 4th one I'm doing for them. They're always really fun and really cool. And I'm also really excited about the impact I can make at Yieldify, you know, the technology startup I mentioned. We've grown from 2 to 130 people in 2 years. We still keep growing. It's very busy, expanding internationally. So, and I'm looking after that whole area. So that's, you know, that's very interesting for me as well. A lot of hard work, but fun.
Yeah. So where can we find more information about you?
Okay, so I have, firstly, I have a lot of free resources on my website. So my website is www.interview-coach.co.uk. So when you go to free resources, I have a free e-course called How to Win at Job Interviews. I have a free video course, which is a 5-day free video course where I talk about how to get, you know, how recruiters use resumes and interviewing techniques and salary negotiation. So that's at youarehiredvideocourse.com. I will send you a link later. And I've got loads of videos on my YouTube channel. So if you go to youtube.com/Margaret Buj, B-U-J, you'll find loads of videos as well, with, you know, different tips I've been mentioning today. So yeah, and also my blog, that will be on my website. I've got loads of articles with loads of tips. In fact, a lot of the tips I've mentioned today, they will be on my blog as well.
Margaret, thank you very much for your time. Thank you for sharing all your tips and your experience, all your suggestions.
Pleasure. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, it was great to have you here, and I hope to invite you again in the future. So thank you for your time.